Tim's foot doing? Is it still attached? Do they have to put pins in it? Aw. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Come on in. Find a seat if you can. Eventually, that joke's probably going to get old, isn't it? Come on in. Oh, I hear all sorts of laughing in the foyer there. Come on in if you're goofing off in the back there. We got to get this party started. Welcome to 2018. This is our first gathering in the new year. Welcome. So we thought we'd make it extra special for you by dropping the temperature to negative degrees. You're welcome. You're welcome. You can thank us later. The heat is working overtime. So as we enter into 2018, we want to take a couple minutes to look back and remember 2017. How many of you guys remember 2017? It wasn't that long ago. Anybody? No? Oh, some of you guys are trying to forget. Oh, Bill remembers. Bill remembers. So what we're going to do is spend a couple minutes trying to see how far back into 2017 you remember some of the highlights, the points. So we're going to ask you a few questions and see who is stuck living in the past. All right, here. So for the first one, what color is Rey's lightsaber in The Last Jedi? Any Star Wars fans out there? No one? Cricket? All right, at this point, just a guess. And you just throw out you can throw out a color here as long. Purple. Okay, purple from Brian there. Anyone else have any ideas? Green. You guys disappoint me. At least I know you're not living in the past here. What's the answer there, Fred? Purple it is. Oh no, blue. I'm sorry, blue. This is the first one I saw. Blue. Was that you, Sarah? Did you say blue? Yeah. Well done. Well done. No, well, it was a lucky guess. I mean, you had 25% and you nailed it. So you keep this up and you win. We're going to give you the front seat there. So it's your lucky morning. Yeah. All right, next one here, 2017. Do you remember? Why did the fidget spinner become so popular in 2017? Was it because of bored-minded middle schoolers? Was it because of the original patent expired? Was it because the cost of goods was cheap this year? Or was it celebrity endorsement by Daniel Radcliffe? What do you think? Those are tough. And there's not even all of the above, which you know is the answer. Who did I hear? Did I hear a D or a B? B back there? You're going to go with B? Ooh, you guys are smart. Go ahead, give them the answer there, Fred. Now that the brain cells are starting to warm up, you see you guys are getting a little bit more engaged, being able to remember back there to 2017. All right, well done. Next one there, Fred. Which of the following is not the name of one of 13-year-old Darcy Lynn's puppets who won America's Got Talent? All right, if you guys watch America's Got Talent, it's a Doyle favorite. At our house, was it Petunia, Oscar, Edna, or Walter? Brian says Walter with confidence. Who else? Walter? Are you just saying that because Brian said it, or is it because you believe it's Walter? You do know who Walter is? The Walter? Do you know the comedian who is with the Walter? Jeff Dunham. All right, what's the answer, Fred? Yes, it is Walter. Well done, Brian. Well done. All right, next one. What was the most popular Snapchat filter of 2017? Now, I gotta always remember when I'm putting these questions together, I gotta remember, man, is my crowd gonna even know what Snapchat is? How many of you guys know what Snapchat is? You guys, a couple people? All right, so Snapchat is this app where you send pictures of yourself to different people, and they have these things called filters, are like different, so you can't use the word in the definition. They're different like pictures that add on to you. Never mind. You guys, you Google it later and see what comes up. So I hear the face swap. I hear the dog face. Anybody want to break the tie here? The most popular Snapchat. You guys are young and hip. Rays, what do you think? Which one? The deer face? Thank you for not breaking the tie there for me. Nobody else? All right, what's the answer? Drum roll. The dog face. The dog face is the most popular Snapchat filter. You guys may see that on the Facebook, if you guys ever used the Facebook. All right. Last one here, I think. Which of the following is not a Stranger Things character? You guys know Stranger Things, a Netflix kind of cults following TV show. Anybody ever heard of Netflix? Or let's start there. Anybody heard of Netflix? No? Oh, man. I'm in the wrong crowd. Wrong generation. Stranger Things. Okay, is it John, Will, Lucas, or Max? Obviously, if you guys have never seen the show, you're not going to know. Has anybody ever seen the show, Stranger Things? I hear John. I hear Max. You have Linda, but you're not. Oh, you said Max too? Okay. Fred, what's the answer? It is John. Huh? Brian. Honestly, Brian, we don't need the man reading the fine print. Okay, there may have been a stunt double in the credits named John. Okay, some were Jonathan, but one of the main characters. All right? Well, good. I'm glad. Hope everybody's warmed up now and ready to leave 2017 behind us as we enter in strong into 2018. Going to start off talking about some purpose here this morning, so we're excited. But first, before we do, we just want to go through our kind of general weekly announcements. If you're with us for the first time here this morning, we would love the opportunity to be able to connect with you. So if you want to pull out your cell phone, we use our cell phones here in all sorts of different ways. But the first way, if you want to text the word welcome to the phone number that you see up there on the screen, you can text the word welcome to 315-883-2213, and that will give us the ability to be able to connect with you, and we'd love to send you out a gift and just thank you for being a part of our gathering here this morning. We would love that opportunity. Also, as you have your phones out, you can open up the YouVersion Bible app and follow along with, in the events section, all the notes and passages that we're going to be looking at this morning. You can do that as well on your iPad or anything like that. And then next, this morning, if you came to Forward Point looking to give, there's a couple different ways that you can give here at Forward Point. We have our Joy Box back there at the door that you can give as you're entering or leaving if you'd like to. Or you can give online at our website, forwardpoint.org. And you can also give with your phone by texting the amount you'd like to give to the short code 84321. And that will allow you to set up an account right there through your phone and very secure, be able to do that right from your phone, okay? Sounds good. If you would, stand to your feet. We're going to go ahead and get this party started with some music. But first, before we do, we want to do some high tens this morning. So if you want to find 5 people, and we're going to do some high tens this morning, get the blood in your fingers rolling.
Good morning, everyone. We're going to do a little new song here for you. A little bit of soul, a little spiritual. As we begin this new year, all our hope is in Jesus. Sing with me. Here we go. I've been held. I've been held by the Savior. I felt fire from above. I've been down to the river. I ate the sea, but proud I could return. Sing with me. Ooh, my hope is in Jesus. Thank God that yesterday's gone. No, our sins are forgiven. I've been washed by the blood. I'm no stranger. I'm no stranger to prison. I've worn shackles and chains. I've been freed and forgiven. Going back, I'll never be the same. That's why I held my hope is in Jesus. Thank God that yesterday's gone. Oh, my sins are forgiven. washed by the blood. You're doing so good. Let's do the first verse. I've been held by the Savior. I felt fire from above. I've been down to the river. I ain't the same, the prodigal return. Ooh, all I hope is in Jesus. Let me hear you, church. Thank God that yesterday's gone. No, our sins are forgiven, and I've been washed by the blood. Let's sing that again. All my hope, and no, I hope is in Jesus. Oh, thank God that yesterday's gone. All our sins are forgiven, and I've been washed by the blood. I'm no stranger. Sing it with me. I'm no stranger to prison. I've owned shackles and chains. I've been freed and I'm forgiven, and I'm going back and I'll never be the same. That's why I sing, oh, I hope is in Jesus. Thank God that yesterday's gone. No, our sins are forgiven. Oh, and I've been washed by the blood. Sing it again. Ooh, and all I hope is in Jesus. Thank God that yesterday's gone, and all our sins are forgiven, and I've been washed by the blood. Sing that last line. I've been washed, and I've been washed by the blood. One more time. I've been washed, and I've been washed by the blood. You can give a shout of praise. All our hope is in you, Lord. Yes, where does our help come from? It comes from the maker of the heaven and the universe. Here we go. You call me out. Call me out upon the waters, the great unknown. My feet may fail, and there I find you in the mystery, in ocean's deep. My faith will stand. Let me hear it. I will call, and I will call upon your name, and keep my eyes above the waves. When oceans rise, my soul will race in your embrace. For I am yours, and you are mine. Your grace abounds. Here we go. Your grace abounds in deepest waters. Your sovereign hand will be my guide. Where feet may fail, may fail, if He surrounds me. You never fail, you never fail, and you won't start now. And I will call, and I will call upon your name. We will call, yeah, and keep my eyes above the waves. When oceans rise, my soul will rest in your embrace. For I am yours, and you are mine. Let's sing it again. And I will call. Here we go. And I will call upon your name. Ooh. And keep my eyes above the waves or the snowbanks and oceans rise. My soul will rest in your embrace, for I am yours, and you are mine. Spirit, lead me where my trust is without borders. Let me walk upon the waters, wherever you may call me. Take me deeper than my feet could ever wander, and my faith will be made stronger in the presence of my safe. Spirit, lead me. Spirit, lead me where my trust is without borders. Let me walk upon the water, wherever you would call me. Take me deeper than my feet could ever wander, and my faith will be made stronger in the presence of. One more time, Spirit, lead me. Spirit, lead me where my trust is without borders. Let me walk upon the waters, and wherever you would call. Take me deeper. Take me deeper than my feet could ever wander, and my faith will be made stronger in the presence of. And I will call, and I will call upon your name. And keep my eyes, and keep my eyes above the waves. When oceans rise, my soul will rest in your embrace, for I am yours, and you are mine. Sing it again. And I will call. Here we go. And I will call upon your name, and keep my eyes above the waves. When oceans rise, my soul will rest in your embrace, for I am yours, and you are mine. For I am yours, for I am yours, and you are. One more time. For I am yours, for I am yours, and you are mine. Thank you, Lord God. Yes. Psalm 121. I just alluded to it before the song. Just David crying out to God. Where does my help come from? So he looked up into the hills, and he said, my help comes from the Lord. My help comes from the Lord. But the maker of the heaven and the earth. He said he watches over his people. Let's sing this. You were the Word. You were the Word at the beginning, one with God, the Lord Most High. Your hidden glory in creation, now revealed in you, oh Christ. What a beautiful name it is. What a beautiful name it is. The name of Jesus Christ, my King. What a beautiful name it is. Nothing compares to this. What a beautiful name it is. The name of Jesus. You didn't once. Here we go. didn't want heaven without us. So Jesus, you brought heaven down. My sin was great. My sin was great, but your love was greater. Come on. What could separate us now? What a wonderful name it is. What a wonderful name it is. The name of Jesus Christ, my King. What a wonderful name it is. Nothing compares to this. What a wonderful name it is. The name of death could not hold you. Death could not hold you. The tomb before you. You silenced the boast of sin and grave. The heavens are roaring the praise of your glory. You are raised to life again, and you have no rival, and you have no equal. Now and forever, God, you reign, and yours is the kingdom, and yours is the glory, and yours is the name above all names. What a powerful name it is. What a powerful name it is. The name of Jesus Christ, my King. What a powerful name it is. And nothing can stand against. What a powerful name it is. The name of death could not hold you. And death could not hold you. The veil torn before you. You silenced the boast of sin and grave. The heavens are roaring the praise of your glory. For you were raised to life again. You have no rival, and you have no rival, and you have no equal. Now and forever, God, you reign. And yours is the kingdom, and yours is the glory, and yours is the name above all names. What a powerful name it is. Ooh, what a powerful name it is. Ooh, your name of Jesus Christ, my King. What a powerful name it is. And nothing can stand against. What a powerful name it is. The name of... Sing that last line. What a powerful name it is. The name of Jesus. What a powerful name it is. The name of Jesus. Thank you, Father God. I pray all our hope is in Jesus. Even when the oceans come, whether that is financial oceans or relationship oceans, or whether we're dealing with strife at our jobs or work, or our families are broken, you have a more powerful name, a more glorious name, a more wonderful name, a name above all names. We don't have to bury our head in the sand. We can look up to the hills and say, man, my help, my hope, my faith is in the God of the heaven and the earth. Jesus, thank you. Amen.
So obviously the new year is obviously a great time where people start reflecting on New Year's resolutions and reflecting on their life, the things that they want to do, or maybe the things they wish they had done, and try to reevaluate what's going to be different today or this week or this month or this year that's going to be different than the way I lived this last week or month or year. And if you look online, they say that it takes about 10,000 hours to master any kind of creative skill or habit. Anything that you wanna do. It takes about 10,000 hours before you really find yourself mastering or being amazing. And for me, I'm kind of the kind of guy who only likes to do something unless I'm going to be the best at it. Like I want to be the best, and I don't want anybody to be better than me if I'm going to invest my time and energy into mastering the skill or playing this game or this sport or whatever. And the first thing that I can really remember wanting to master was basketball. Anybody out there play basketball for fun or in high school or anything? Yeah, a couple of you guys, right? Yeah, actually, I used to play Steve back in the day. It was the Faith Baptist Academy versus the homeschoolers, the arch nemesis. All right, so basketball, it all kind of started going with my dad to his different basketball leagues that he would go to, and the only thing I would really go for is to play around in the other gyms and mess around with some of the other kids that were there, but really just kind of oblivious to what was going on the court as he was playing, and all the men with their skins and shirts and skins and nastiness that was happening over there, right? And occasionally I would kind of stop and watch the action as these guys would be running back and forth intently with this mission of getting this ball in the hoop. And as I got older, my dad would start to invite me to go to the park with him to play and these different opportunities. And I can still kind of remember the first time when I did something that, like, I got praise from the other people on the team, right? I don't know if it was some kind of sweet shot or a pass to somebody else, but it was like, oh, great job, Jimmy, and kind of got hooked on this bug of basketball. I loved it. I loved the sport, and I would start going to the park on my own to practice. I got these weight shoes. They're supposed to make you faster and jump higher, and if you've noticed about me, I could use a little bit of both in the sport of basketball, right? So there was these sneakers that had these like really big platforms at the bottom that you would wear that were supposed to strengthen your calves. And I would dribble and play basketball with those on my feet. I would start to go to basketball camps, and it started off with, one summer just going to one camp. But then the next year, that wasn't enough. I wanted to be better, so I had to go to multiple camps. Right? I would go to the Syracuse basketball camp, and I would be a day camper, and I would go all 3 weeks in a row just because I wanted to be the best that I could possibly be. And there was something about it that kind of came natural to me, right? There was this kind of intuition that I had where, I could pass the ball to people and get them in a spot where they could easily score. And if you're not familiar with sports, they call that assists, right? And for me, it was something that just came natural. Like I could see people really in my peripheral vision. I would do all these no-look passes or fancy passes, and I was kind of like a crowd pleaser, right? You always get the ooh and the ah, right? You ever hear those sounds when people do cool things on sports? No, you guys don't watch sports? Okay. But for me, it was kind of this perfect storm of this sport that my dad kind of got me hooked on, that it became natural to me, and this perfect storm of different things that came together that just made me a basketball junkie. You get into middle school and high school, and what would happen is one of my friends would take me home after school, and it would take me to the YMCA, would drop me off at the YMCA, and I would play and practice there until my dad came after work, and my dad would come, and then we would play some more there, and this would happen, 3-4 times a week on a regular basis, just constantly playing this game that I love so much. And in modified basketball and in JV basketball, I was always a starter. And I can remember, as a JV player, my sophomore year, getting asked to move up to varsity in sectionals, right? The season was over, but the varsity team was moving on to the playoffs. So they would always ask some of the JV people to come up and play and travel along with the team during the playoffs. You wouldn't ever get to play, but, you got to wear the varsity uniform and the warm-ups, right, that they had that we didn't have in JV. And as a junior, I remember playing on the varsity team, and I was a point guard, and I had to play behind this senior who was a point guard, who had been the starting point guard for our team since he was a freshman. Right? So there wasn't really much of a chance that I had to come in and take a spot. So for a lot of that junior year, I sat on the bench kind of watching the game go by that I loved to play so much. And occasionally I would get to go in, right? You know those moments when you're either winning by a lot or losing by a lot, right? That was when I got to go in and play my junior year. And he kind of just lost, a love for the game. During practices, I would do some of those same no-look passes, that in the street games and in the YMCA, you're seen as like a basketball god, but in my coach's eyes, I was seen as a liability and was not happy with the way that I passed the ball. And I kind of started to lose this love that I had for the sport that I invested so much of my life trying to become better at. Now, I'm the kind of guy, again, who wants to be the best at something if I'm going to do it. Otherwise, there's no real sense of doing it all. And I remember going into my senior year, and then basketball season is approaching, and I'm kind of wondering, man, do I even want to play this year? I don't want to be, have all this pressure on me of being the man, having to fill in these shoes, all while I also don't want to sit on the bench and just watch the sport go by. I just wanted to kind of do what I love to do. I just love creating this beauty, right? To me, it was like a symphony when everything flows and you got the 3-on-2 and you're throwing the pass and the guy's got the easy layup, right? For me, it was this symphony, this beautiful song that was playing as I was playing basketball. So I was stuck. I didn't know really what to do. And as a young driver, I was in my first car accident right as the season began. And, I was not knowing what to do. I kind of used that as an excuse to not play. Or I kind of told the coach, man, I was in this car accident and, I just don't feel like my body has healed from it. So I don't think I'm going to be able to play this year. And, maybe if there is some kind of like energy on his part to be like, oh, we're going to miss you, or no, let's figure this out, then I might have been tempted to stay, right? But it was like, all right, well, we're going to miss you, Jimmy. And the conversation was over. Or I didn't really feel valued for the thing that I loved so much. So I didn't play. I worked. I did other things, but basketball, I kind of, just watched from a distance as our team played and trying to stay as far removed as possible because inside it kind of hurt, right? It kind of had a sting about it because I always wondered, man, what if I had played? What might have I been able to do? It was kind of the first time in my life where I felt purposeless, right? Countless hours trying to master the sport, and what did I have now to show for it in my life? I don't know if you've ever been holding something in your life that was so important to you or meaningful, and something happens where it just seems to kind of crumble and fall apart, and you're just kind of left with all these pieces and dust in your hands, wondering, man, how did I get here? How did this happen? There's nothing that you wouldn't do to see it all come back together, to maybe go back to the way things were before. Maybe if you just gave a little more, but now you're just left wondering, man, what happened? Did I not give enough? There's something about purpose that drives us. There's something about that moment when you're in your sweet spot and you're creating the symphony. It may not be singing or actually playing an instrument, but there's something that you love to do that when you're doing it, it's like the heavens break open and, right, the dove descends down on you and God is saying, this is my son who I'm well pleased, right? There's something about something that you do where that's the feeling that you get. I think of the movie, I think his name was Eric Little, right, from Chariots of Fire, where he talks about why he likes to run, and he says he feels the presence of God on his face as he's running. All right, and for all of us, there's something that we do or maybe haven't even experienced it, that you were created, you were designed to do, that gives you purpose, that gives you drive, that gives you motivation. There's something about living in that moment on purpose that gives us that feeling that we're on top of the world, kind of like Jack from Titanic, right? You ever seen that movie, Titanic? I'm on top of the world. We've put our stake in the ground around this at Forward Point, right? If you haven't heard it before, then I'm surprised, but right, we are all about helping people find purpose in Jesus. We exist. That's our reason, is to help people find purpose. Now, the new year is one of those times when it just kind of becomes natural to talk about these things, right? About purpose and look at our lives and be reflective. Why are we doing the things that we're doing? What do we want to change? Who is it that we want to become? And there's this picture of who it is that I was meant to be, and then who it is that I want to be, and I need to take these steps to get there. Or maybe to get back there. Maybe it's a weight that you want to hit. Maybe it's some kind of discipline. Maybe it's a discipline to get in some of these hours to master some kind of skill like crocheting. Maybe you want to be like the bomb crocheter where you could do it with your eyes closed. I don't know what it is for you. So what we want to do is just get super hyper-focused around this idea of purpose for the next 2 weeks. And being a part of God's family and his house means more than just kind of a gold star for perfect attendance on Sunday mornings. Right? It means more than just maybe giving at the end of the year, being able to add up and you gave exactly your 10% and getting a gold star for your tithing. It means that we want to recapture the hunt to discover and live for what you were designed for. Because you were created for more than just coming to a building once, maybe twice a week. You were designed for more than just calculating 10% and dropping it in a box. And when you hear or think of God, what do you think of? Right? When you think about this idea of religion or faith and God, what are some of the words that to yourself just come to mind? Or maybe to the people around you. Man, when you talk about God to your coworker, what are some of the walls that go up or some of the negative things that come to mind? For me, I've kind of gone through this journey, and it all comes back to when we think about purpose, let's go back to the beginning, right? What were we created for? What was the intention behind why God did things? And can't go further back than Genesis 1:1 besides the table of contents, okay? And we don't find too much spiritual meaning from the table of contents, so we're going to get started here at Genesis chapter 1, verse 1. And this is what it says, right? At the beginning, we find God doing this. First, it says, God created. Right from the beginning, right from the get-go, we find this omnipotent being, all-powerful, just expressing himself by creating. He's making things that weren't there, now there just by his breath and by the things that he says, and poof, things happen. First, this God created. God is a creative God. At his very nature, right from the beginning, he's creating. He created the heavens and earth, all that you see, all that you don't see. The reality is he creates so much. There's so many things that we don't even see. We have no idea that are there, right? Even here we are, 2017, and they're still discovering bugs and weird animals and things that they've never heard of before, and they're discovering it for the first time. All you see and all you don't see. Earth was a soup of nothingness, a bottomless emptiness, an inky blackness. But God's Spirit brooded like a bird above the watery abyss. First, this God created. The next, the rest of chapter 1 and into chapter 2 is, again, this really it's a song of God creating all the heavens and the earth in the different days. And you all have, I'm sure, been through the different things that he created them as we see him. But for God, right, you only get one chance to make a first impression. And this is God's first impression to all of mankind. And it says, first, this God created. Right, so when we talk about what does it mean to be a created thing, right, to be living in that sweet spot where we're just feeling God's presence as we're doing what we were created and intended for. Well, created things, if you're taking notes, are made for a purpose reflected in their creator. So if God is our creator and the first thing that we see him doing is creating, then if we living in that sweet spot, we're going to find ourselves reflecting that same nature of creating. All right, think about playing a game with friends, right? When's the last time you played a game with a bunch of people and it's the type of night where everyone's laughing and your stomach is hurting because you're laughing so hard, and it's just, the memories are made, right? Those type of moments. And think about what that game was. All right, here I have an example of a game that we played once in our youth group. You may know the guy.
Yarn. Like this. Yarn.
I didn't ask Gideon's permission to show this here. Obviously, this was in a much warmer time of the year than now. But this is one of our first youth group nights when we started coming together. We'll just leave that up there for a little while so you guys can really appreciate Gideon for everything, right? But we're playing this game, right, and it's super fun, and you got to say these. You got to get people to guess what you're trying to say, and these things in your mouth make you look, for one, scary, but then it makes it hard to say certain words, right? Now think about the guy who created this game. Do you think he was sitting in a desk like, maybe if we have them stick something in their mouth, yeah, that'll be fun. Yeah, let's do it. Right? Can you imagine something this fun and hilarious coming out of some guy sitting, all boring in a desk? There's probably these guys that are getting together and they're laughing. You're like, and then we're going to have them do this. And we're going to have them put, it's great, yeah, write that down. And we're going to have them put their things in his mouth. And as we're playing and you're having fun, it's a reflection of the creators who made this game. All right, it's a reflection of the intent that they had and the things that they wanted you to experience and feel as you're playing this game with every moment. You see what he created and you think it has to reflect the person who created it. That's why the scriptures tell us all of creation points as a reflection to God, that he exists, that he's there. What purpose is reflected in God right from the beginning, and we see first God created. And why isn't it when people off the street think of God, the first thing that comes to mind, it usually isn't creating, right? It isn't usually creative. It's usually judgmental, or it's, man, God is boring, or all these negative things. And somehow we as the followers of Christ lost the ability to reflect the God who created us. And as a result, there's this bad taste. We were created to create. Now, this is scary for me when I think about being creative, because naturally I'm not like a super, artsy, creative type of person, right? In my house, my mom was super artsy and creative, and she can make these. She's like the MacGyver of arts and crafts, right? She makes all these things kind of come out of needles and things that, fell out of the vacuum after vacuuming for the day, right? Like it's crazy. But it's because I put creativity in this box where, maybe I just assume it has to look a certain way or be done this particular way. And just like sometimes maybe we put faith in this box where it has to look or act or feel a certain way, maybe we've done the same thing with creativity. And the reality is that we were created to create and to reflect our Creator. And for you, it may not be working with crochet. Maybe for you it is writing, or maybe for you it is being in a soup kitchen helping people get a meal who are starving. There's something in you, something in your DNA that you were created to do, that God designed for you, a purpose. That when you tap into it, when you're able to begin to do it, you feel like the face of God is shining on you because you're reflecting the Creator who created you. What does it mean to be a created thing? I think the next thing is this idea: created things are made up of parts dependent upon each other. If you've ever had a Lego or any kind of model. You build these things, and there's all sorts of parts, and it just takes one part to ruin the whole thing, right? To not do its part, or to be missing, or for the dog to have chewed it and bitten it, and it no longer functions properly. And now all of a sudden, that's the one thing that you see that's not working. And in Corinthians, we're going to see here this rather long passage, but it's this journey that the author is trying to communicate, that all of us are parts of this body that have to work together. And starting in verse 12, if you want to follow on the screen or in your Bibles or in your phones, we're going to just dive into this whole passage. They're really a little lengthy, so stay with me. But he says, you can easily enough see how this kind of thing works by looking no farther than your own body. Right? So if you're ever confused or wondering about how this works, just look at your own body and remember, man, this is how God designed it, for us to be parts together. He says, your body has many parts, limbs, organs, cells, but no matter how many parts you can name, you're still one body. And it's exactly the same with Christ. By means of his one Spirit, we all said goodbye to our partial and piecemeal lives. We each used to independently call our own shots. But then we entered into a large and integrated life in which he has the final say in everything. Right? That's our prayer here for Forward Point, is to be part of this integrated life with each other, doing life. This is what we proclaimed in word and action when we were baptized. Each of us is now a part of his resurrection body, refreshed and sustained at one fountain, his Spirit, where we all come to drink. The old labels we once used to identify ourselves, right? I'm sure we can all think of different labels that have been used to identify us, right? Probably some of them not even family friendly here. Family labels like Jew or Greek, slave or free, they're no longer useful. They don't have a place here anymore. We need something larger, more comprehensive. So I want you to think about how all this makes you more significant. Right? Being a part of this body, being a part of this organism that we're dependent upon each other makes you more significant, not less. A body isn't just a single part blown up into something huge. It's all the different but similar parts arranged and functioning together. If the foot said, I'm not elegant like hand, embellished with rings, I guess I don't belong to this body, would that make it so? If ear said, I'm not beautiful like eye, lipid and expressive, I don't deserve a place on the head, would you want to remove it from the body? If the body was all eye, right, one giant big eye, how could it hear? If all ear, how could it smell? As it is, we see that God has carefully placed each part of the body right where he wanted. You see, God, the Creator, designed you to be a part of this body, dependent upon all the other parts next to you. But I also want you to think about how this keeps your significance from getting blown up into self-importance. For no matter how significant you are, it is only because of what you are a part of. An enormous eye or a gigantic hand wouldn't be a body, but a monster. What we have is one body with many parts, each its proper size and in its proper place. No part is important on its own. Can you imagine eye telling hand, get lost, I don't need you? Or head telling foot, you're fired. Your job has been phased out. As a matter of fact, in practice, it works the other way. The lower the part, the more basic and therefore necessary. You can live without an eye, for instance, but not without a stomach. When it's part of your own body, you're concerned with. It makes no difference whether the part is visible or clothed, higher or lower. You give it dignity and honor just as it is, without comparisons. If anything, you have more concern for the lower parts than the higher. If you had to choose, wouldn't you prefer good digestion to full-bodied hair? Huh? Yes, please. The way God designed our bodies is a model for understanding our lives together as a church. Every part dependent on every other part. the parts we mention and the parts we don't, the parts we see and the parts we don't. If one part hurts, every other part is involved in the hurt and in the healing. If one part flourishes, every other part enters into the exuberance. We are Christ's body. That's who you are. You must never forget this. Only as you accept your part of that body does your part mean anything. Does it come alive? You're familiar with some of the parts that God has formed in his church, which is his body, right? Apostles, prophets, teachers, miracle workers, healers, helpers, organizers, those who pray in tongues. But it's obvious by now, isn't it, that Christ's church is a complete body and not a gigantic unidimensional part. It's not all apostles. It's not all prophet. It's not all tongues. It's not all interpreter of tongues. And yet some of you keep competing for so-called important parts. But now I want to lay out a far better way for you. You see, it's easy to get into this mindset that we've kind of created in North America. We have this kind of rock star church mentality where there's the people up on the stage, and man, if I could just have cool hair and play the guitar like that Steve Skinner guy, right? Man, then Jesus would really be doing some cool things, right? Or if I could just flip the drumstick like that guy in the drum cage does, right? He makes it look so cool. Like, I want to get his autograph afterwards. Yeah, if I could be like that guy. Love that guy. And it's so easy for us to put all this importance on the people that are up here that are doing and performing. If I could just be like that guy speaking, right? And man, he must be really close with God because he has all these things that he says. And most of the time I'm not falling asleep, right? Like the other guys, I fall asleep all the time. If I could only be like, and there's all these other parts, right? These just represent a small number of the parts that it takes one to sustain what we have going on. The reality here at Forward Point is we don't have a ton, right? We have our bands. We have some people who serve in children's ministry, and we're starting to add people who greet at the door and, serve food and work at our info center. And gradually all these pieces are coming together as people are starting to say, what can I do, Jimmy, to be involved or to help out with what's going on? And people are starting to set up, and maybe it's not even something that you are doing because, like, that's your, you wake up in the morning and you just can't wait to make popcorn, right? Like, there's probably nobody who wakes up in the morning and is just a popcorn connoisseur, where that's like the face of God smiles on you as the butter aroma falls out of the popcorn machine, right? That's probably not you. But what happened is you began to say, man, I'm going to be part of this body, and I'm going to meet needs. And what's going to happen is we become dependent upon each other to be part of this organism. Not only are we going to be able to do the things, the small parts, the band, the children's ministry, these small things, but what's going to begin to happen is people are going to be able to say, you know what, man, I would love to be able to do this. Right? And as a body, we're going to say, man, that is awesome. If that's what's on your heart, we're going to come alongside you, and we're going to support you, and we're going to help you. And that's when different ministries begin to form. And that's when we're going to begin to see different ways that we're impacting the community as people are tapping into this body that they're dependent on, and they're realizing, man, my job is to reflect my Creator. And if I was really to be honest and do that, this is how I would do that. And people are going to be able to start tapping into the things that they were created for, and it's going to look nothing like what we have established currently. But one day we're going to look back and be like, man, how cool is it when Mike Carter stepped out and did that Easter program, right? How cool is it when Manny and Jessica, sacrificed their time to make all those lit shirts, right, for us, because that's what they love to do. How cool is it when the cooks made that food for the band, and the band didn't die from starvation, and they were able to minister, and people came to Christ that night. All the while they're making the food, and they just love making food, and that's why I try to hang out with them as often as possible to try to get any food from them I can. But this is how we were created. This is what's going to begin to happen, these little bursts of inspiration as people are going to tap into, man, God created you to create, and we're a body dependent upon each other. And we're not going to settle for you just coming in and filling in one of our holes. Right? It may start there. You may say, I don't care what it is right now, I just want to do something, and we may have you fill a hole. But we're not going to be content with you just staying put in that hole. We're going to constantly be challenging, what is it that God created you for? What is your purpose? Where do you feel most alive? Because this is who God created us to be, is this body. And what happens is it's easy for the body to become unhealthy, right? It's unhealthy when you only have some of the people doing, buying into this. There's this movie called Lady in the Water. It's a M. Night Shyamalan movie. I love this guy. He's always got these weird twists to his movies, and they're very suspenseful. But he has this movie called Lady in the Water, and there's this one guy in it. His name is Reggie, right? And Reggie's character has kind of got this weird mental thing going on where he only works out one side of his body, right? So if you see this side of his body, you see these big old muscles, and then you see these body, this stuff that looks more like what I might be sporting, right? But this is not healthy, right? It's easy to see them like, man, that is just not, something wrong with that dude, And if we just have some of the body members constantly doing all the work, then the other body parts begin to kind of go through atrophy and start to die because other parts are doing all the work and we're just watching them do it. And yeah, if they're going to do it, but God's calling us to all to join in and to be committed to each other. Because let's be honest, at times we've all gone through moments where we feel expendable, right? Like maybe I'm not really needed, right? I could probably slip in and probably slip out and no one would really care. I don't do my part because they don't really need me. And I think about when Samuel was coming to anoint the next king of Israel, and he comes into Jesse's house, and Jesse lays out all of his sons that are tall and strong and handsome and good looking. And Samuel's like, man, I don't know what it is. All these guys look the parts. They look like they should be. One of them, should be. But God's saying, no, it's none of these. Is you sure there's not another son or maybe a long lost cousin or something or somebody else who should be here? And he says, well, there's the run to the litter. There's this, David. And scrawny, likes to sing and dance and, all that kind of stuff, play with his harp. I don't know. And well, let's go see him. And it winds up being David, right? The least assuming, the least the part that God chooses and says, you know what, this is who God has chosen will be the next king of Israel. And our culture, it looks and it values the things that don't reflect the heart of the Creator, right? It puts the skills and talents over heart and passion. But here, as we commit to each other as being part of this body and trying to reflect our Creator, all it takes is a willingness to say, you know what, I want to be used. And I guarantee you, as you enter into this journey with us together and with God, that you're going to find yourself living in purpose of how God created you to be. And lastly, we have this idea of, what it means to be a created thing. It's created things are made to be conduits of their Creator. When Jesus lived here on earth, right, for 30 years, he's kind of off the scene, but he gets on the scene and he comes into this place where he's asked to preach. He's asked to read the scriptures in the synagogue that day. And this is what he says in Luke chapter 4. This is what he reads. It says, God's Spirit is on me. He chose me to preach the message of good news to the poor, sent me to announce pardon to prisoners and recovery of sight to the blind, to set the burdened and battered free, to announce this is God's year to act. He rolled up the scroll, handed it back to the assistant, and sat down. Every eye in the place was on him, intent. And then he started in, You've just heard Scripture make history. It came true just now in this place. You see, Jesus had this passage from Isaiah that he was quoting, and he was saying, this is being fulfilled in me right now. Right? This is the job description that Jesus assumes, and as we desire to be a part of his body, to reflect our Creator, this is the job description that we then should assume. It's one where we have a message of good news to the poor. One where we're being sent to announce pardon to prisoners and recovery of sight to the blind. One where we're to set the burdened and the battered free, to announce that this is God's year to act. Right? That's a pretty intense job description. We look at it and be like, yeah, that's good for Jesus, but I'm not sure that really plays into the things that I got working for me in life right now. Right? It's real easy for us. I get so caught up in politics and on Facebook, and I've had to make a personal rule for myself that I'll never, respond or post anything political because I just get frustrated and angry by how stupid people are, right? And there's plenty of stupid people out there. But here we are. We get so caught up on all these. Do we allow people from other countries to come in? The DACA, all these things that it's important. But what we've done as a church is we've let go of our responsibilities and given them over to the government to say, you take care of the poor, you take care of the widows. We'll pay our taxes, but we're going along doing our thing and let you take care of the rest. And then we get mad at the government because they build and they waste money by providing all these things, when the reality is we as followers of Christ, we're to be the ones who bring good news to the poor. We're the ones who are supposed to be the ones bringing pardon to the prisoners, recovery of sight to the blind, to set the burdened and the battered free, to announce this is God's year to act. And I wonder if maybe some of us have never tapped into that feeling of God's presence on our face because we've neglected the areas where God is most likely to be found. In the home of the widow or the orphan, in the hospital with the sick and the dying, in the nursing home with the old and decrepit. Man, I tell you, I think of some of the most memorable times of my life is being able to lead some of my students in Florida. We would go and lead this kind of church service for a nursing home once a month, and it really just turned into, some of my kids would play songs, and I said, we're gonna touch people who haven't been touched in a long time, and we're just gonna be the love of Christ to these people who don't get to have much contact with the outside world. And there's something super special where you feel like you've just had the breath of God on your face when you're able to hold an elderly person's hand and they start to chuckle and laugh for what seems like maybe the first time in a long time. Right? That's the job description that comes standard for all of us as we accept this new life of following Jesus. Jesus was constantly turning heads for doing things with people who are nothing like him. You see, all the people of his day thought, okay, if this is Jesus and he's the Messiah, then he's going to be the one up on the stage. But what Jesus did is he flipped the tables and he said, you know what, I'm going to be the one that's going to be serving hand and feet, washing people's feet, doing the lowliest of jobs, hanging out with the people that no one else would love. And that's our job description. And, it's not easy all the time. For Jesus, this job description led him to this point where he was taken to a garden, and it was just hours before he would probably go through some of the most gruesome torture known to man. And what was his heart's plea? His heart's plea to the Father was, man, if there's any way for this to be taken from me, if there's any way for this to be done a different way, let's do it that way, because I don't want to do it this way. But what he did is he submitted his will to the Father's will, and set in motion a path and a plan that would then begin to provide freedom for all of us through the gruesome next couple of days. Right? It's not always going to be easy. It's not always going to be fun. But there's something life-changing. There's something earth foundation shaking that happens as we begin to say, okay, God, not my will, but your will be done. Is it possible that the path between where I am and where I could be, where the face of God is shining on me and I'm living in this sweet spot where I'm doing what I was created to do, might be through the laying down of some of our desires to say, okay, God, I don't want to do this, but you know what? It's not my will, but your will be done. Your will be done. Your way. Because God, more than anything, I want to be one who reflects you as the creator and show the world what it looks like to live on purpose and what could happen if something is set ablaze to live with intention. And God, I want to be a part of this body that's dependent upon each other, and I'm not going to just let, those 20% of the people do 80% of the work, but I'm going to just find a hole and I'm going to fill it. And believe that through that you're going to begin to take me on this journey that's going to lead me to this place where, I may not like it and I may have to submit my will to it. But you're going to be glorified through it, and I'm going to find myself committing my hands to your Spirit before all of those around me and bringing life change to people. Will you bow your heads with me this morning as we close? God, I'm so grateful that of all the things that you would choose to allow be the first impression of who you are. It's this idea of you creating. It's not, we don't see you first thing you're doing going to church. We don't see you reading your Bible. We don't see you doing any of these things that we sometimes get consumed with as what we have to do. But God, we get this picture of being able to be a part of something that you've instilled in us, this ability to create. And God, with all my heart, I believe in this room is sitting the potential to create things that are going to break the chains that are holding people back in their lives. God, things are going to be created and formed and begun that are going to break the bondages of generational curses in our community and sin. And as we change our focus and decide, 2018 is going to be the year that we come back to this place where we just say, God, I want to reflect who you are as my creator. God, I want to jump in with this body of people and be committed to them. Hell or high water, we're going to go after whatever it is that you want us to create. Because we want to be a conduit for you to use in the same way you stepped up and said you are going to be the one who's bringing hope to the hopeless, to bring pardon to the prisoner. God, that we might find our value not in the paycheck that we earn, but in the lives that we're bringing freedom. So God, for each story that's represented here this morning that has their hands before them with it seems like nothing more than crumbles and broken pieces. God, you know each story represented in this. and the dust and the brokenness. And God, I pray just even now you would begin to, as people tap into these feelings that maybe they tried to leave behind in 2017 or they tried to leave behind in 2000, but they can't shake. God, that you would come into each and every one of those situations here, even now in this moment. God, that you would just grab those hands that are holding these broken pieces, this dust. God, and for the first time, people might begin to feel your presence. God, in a way that breaks through the pain and the hurt and the bitterness. They would feel your love that says through every single moment of that, I was there with you. And just like when sin first entered the world, right, your first words were not, how dare you, how could you, but as a loving father just said, where are you? I know you're hurting, I know your pain, I know you're going through all sorts of confusion, and I just want to be with you. Where are you? God, would you just continue to heal those stories this morning so that we can live as we were meant to live, as ones who reflect the Creator by creating. God, we wouldn't just be cool and hip and relevant with what's going on around us, but we would be at the tip of the spear creating your movement here on earth as we just respond to, God, not my will, but your will be done. So God, I just pray that you begin to speak and whisper into people's ears and into their souls visions, pictures of what it is that you created them for, that if they begin to tap into and to pursue, that they may work 80 hours in a work week, but it's just that 2 hours that they spend giving of themselves that helps fulfill them and sustain them. It makes it all worthwhile. God, we want to know you because you know us better than anyone else. And as we begin to know you more, may you just begin to help us discover who it is you created us to be. Help us as a body to be committed to each other, to walk through this. We love you. We thank you so much for 2018 and what you're going to do. May we be filled with anticipation for what's going to happen, so we don't just settle and fall back into going with the flow. Thank you, God, so much for being a creative God. We love you. In your name we pray. Amen. Well, my prayer is that God did something in your heart here this morning. And if there's something you want to talk about or maybe something you want to pray about, Steve and I both will be up here and around and would love to share with you what God might be doing in your heart. And we're excited to be on this journey together with you and see all that God wants to do through us and Forward Point here in 2018. But first, I think the next thing he wants us to do is enjoy some cookies and fellowship out there in the foyer. If you feel led to go out there, be encouraged. We serve a creative God. Have a great week. We'll see you. Peace.